All right, bros. We should be. Okay. Oh, hang on, bros. Sorry. There we go. Sorry about that. I'll make everything right on it. So just vibe with me a second. Okay. There we go. The cucaracha. Cucaracha. Come on, baby. I see a titty. Want a titty. Don't be shitty. I need a titty today. Okay, bros. I'll get you. Okay. 3 days. Man. He set on fires. Okay. We'll do that. We might be able to pull it up, but we better be doing it, man. Or we won't be. Literally about our time on this. I got chemo Monday. That's 4.5, almost 5 hours right there. Then I got a psychiatrist appointment. Tuesday, Wednesday.
Autopilot mode enabled.
It'll be her. So, but that's okay. Just play. Good. I'm just going to play her. Oh.
Battle starts.
Awaiting instructions.
Oh, no. If we do, it's my fault. Nobody else. I've been a sick man. And what do you say? You've been sick. Can't.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon. Enemy cruiser sighted. Enemy battleship sighted.
Autopilot mode disabled.
Ship is on fire. Stop, sir. Enemy cruiser sighted. Ship is on fire. Our team is taking the lead.
Enemy battleship foundered. Our victory is in sight.
need to see what we need to do for the cruisers as well, which is a good thing. Give some decent. Have Commander XP's in. Crew. Daddy of those we got four. We done it. I didn't figure we could be. Okay, we had seven. Okay, let's see. That's not bad there. Commander points. So, 3 XP. Let me take my medicine, bros, because I haven't took it. Find it here. Haven't brought it through here. Just give me a moment, dudes. Let me put it on. All right, bros. Just give me a second. gross, we got that done. So now fires 3x, please. Potential damage. That comes up 3 commander points. $1,003 XP. The 3 girls, that's set on fires for the baby. Alright. XP stuff ought to be easy. Stuff like that you're gonna get naturally. You just play. You know, the set on fires of cathedrals is a little rough, but other than that, it'll be alright. You know. Yeah. We got this. Oh.
Action stations.
Awaiting instructions.
Autopilot mode enabled.
Look really good there, bros. Oh.
The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir.
Enemy force sighted on the horizon. Enemy destroyer sighted.
Spotter airborne.
Enemy destroyer sighted. Enemy cruiser detected.
Torpedoes, direct front.
Autopilot mode disabled.
On fire. Problem solved, sir. The ship is on fire. Torpedoes to port.
Enemy destroyer sunk.
Spotter returning to ship. The ship is on fire. Problem solved, sir.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy destroyer sighted.
The ship is on fire.
We've destroyed an enemy cruiser.
Enemy battleship detected. Enemy battleship sighted. Enemy destroyer.
Oh, crap. That sucks. Yeah, that sucks, sir. Battleship. box from it anyway. Okay. Stupid ass in a shark suit. I went and sat and watch this. Didn't make the grade. I would rather we be less politics or crime something. Stuff like that.
I owe you one. That's great. Go to another one, bros. They might win. Let's see. Get back up about 5 cathedrals. Settle for us. We're not going, see? Not getting. Well, shit. Little co-op.
honestly don't know. That's fucked up, man. Really is. You think that we'd not have no problem whatsoever with that? Goes to show you, though. Shit. Crap. Was not enough. Get her. There, I got her.
Battle starts.
Okay. Try it like this. If we don't get none this way, the Des Moines cruiser. You know.
Awaiting instructions.
And animalistic battles as well. I'm not getting them. Why we're not getting them.
Enemy force detected. Enemy cruiser detected.
Spotter airborne.
Enemy battleship detected.
Late for it. Just,
Spotter returning to ship. An enemy submarine.
Enemy destroyer detected.
Enemy submarine spotted.
Our team has taken the lead.
Torpedoes to starboard. Torpedoes to starboard.
Enemy destroyer sighted.
I'd say yes on this, no on the analytics. See why? Be honest. It ain't. That's what I thought. Okay, so we'll play these. People interesting. I love to put housing on this point. It'd be so nice to have it. But as you can see, cost me 500 doubloons. Yeah, I did it, dude. I was paid 500 fucking doubloons. Why it's not when they put housing out? Even yeah, if I'm joking, bro. Well, I've just broke myself for doubloons. I'm gonna have to play it to retrain it. That's nice. No skills whatsoever. Thanks, man. Thanks. That's crap. That is. That's bullshit. This game, man. I mean, honestly, this game and the crap it pulls. 3 hours. Wow, we got plenty of time for that. All right, Rosa, we'll find us something to listen to and stuff while we do this. Can't be music. I don't want no copyright strikes, but we can't stuff. Oh, you better RP genres going there happening.
Autopilot mode enabled. Violent threats against Trump. Okay. Man, what the hell is wrong with people?
And that we heard from police that In the meantime, we also got an update. There's a Florida man that we heard from police that was arrested for making threats against President Trump. Let's listen into that press conference that just got underway a few minutes ago.
Enemy destroyer detected.
Okay, I'm Chief Tony Araujo. You got the spelling, but I'll say it again, A-R-A-U-J-O. Chief of Police with the City of West Palm Beach. With me over my right shoulder, Deputy Chief of Department Shearer, Assistant Chief Musco, who oversees the CID, our Criminal Investigations Division. Assistant Chief Spatera runs operations. Some of the detectives involved, Detective Lieutenant DeVito, who oversees our Detective Bureau. Detective McDonald.
Detective Materi.
There you go. I have them written down, but obviously I didn't bring my piece of paper up here with me. So I just want to start off by telling you I'm going to answer a few questions, what I might be able to answer after the information I'm about to give you. I'm done giving it to you. The victim in this case is the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump. You'll see that in the probable cause affidavit once it becomes public record. I want to give you a series of the chain of the events of how this happened and how we arrived at probable cause. It'll be a quick snapshot. So, I want to announce the arrest of the suspect in this case. His name is Shannon Atkins. He's a male, 46 years of age, who resides in the city of West Palm Beach. The timeline, on January 19th, late, a tip was given to the FBI National Threat Operations Center. It was given to them by a gentleman that resides in Okeechobee, Florida. He reported that threats were posted on Facebook. They were violent, rhetoric, political views, in his opinion, aimed at the president. Very early on January 20th, our West Palm Beach detective that's assigned to the FBI task force began working the case, and he too found the disturbing post. Some of the posts were Lincoln, JFK, Reagan, Martin Luther King, and Trump. Atkins posted, unfortunately, one is still alive. He wrote something to that effect. He also wrote another saying, bullets, please. Jesus, save America. Another one he wrote, I've been banned from X because I said I hope and pray someone kills him. We haven't had an assassination in years. That gives you a flavor of some of the posts that this gentleman posted. After probable cause was established, we began our surveillance using our CID, our Criminal Investigations Division. Some of these officers you see up here are detectives, and our TAC unit. Mr. Atkins has 2 residences in the city of West Palm Beach. Just before 7:30 p.m. on Friday night, Atkins was stopped near one of his homes. He was driving a white 2013 BMW. When we placed him in custody, subsequently we found 3 baggies containing suspect cocaine in his pocket. They did test positive. He was arrested without incident. While being interviewed later, he admitted writing the Facebook post that said he was joking. Folks, this is not a joke. Nothing of that sort is a joke. We notified the Secret Service. They're looking at this case, and they'll make a determination if federal charges are going to be in play. In today's climate, you really can't say things like this. We have incident after incident, example after example of when these threats become real. And we take these very seriously. I want to tell the general public that they are our partners, our eyes and ears. We encourage you to report anything suspicious to the FBI, Crime Stoppers, or the free Safe Watch app that we have. That information goes directly to our STIC, our intelligence center. You can remain anonymous. As I've said before at news conferences, let us decide whether the information is actionable. We'll determine if there's reasonableness to further an investigation. And in this instance, there was. Our detectives developed probable cause, and we made an arrest. So with that, again, If you see something, say something. The charges, you have received copies of what the charges are. He was charged under state statute. They are felonies, or one of them, or both of them are felonies. And the state attorney's office was very helpful in working in this case with us, and so was the FBI and the Secret Service. And that's another point I want to make. Working in partnership with federal law enforcement, local law enforcement, it takes all of us to keep our community safe. And in this instance, the system worked. Working with our federal partners, the information given was seamless. We do have an agent, a police officer, a detective that works on the task force, as do many jurisdictions across the land, to include this region, this area, and it worked as it should. So did we avert something? You never know what you avert, you never know what you displace. I do know that we developed probable cause. We arrested Mr. Atkins, and he's going to have to answer the charges. So with that, I also want to compliment our CID division. These detectives worked tirelessly on this case, as they do every case. They did things professionally, timely, and they effected an arrest when they developed probable cause. So thank you, gentlemen, for a job well done, and also the detectives that are not here that sustained the case also out there by conducting the surveillance. So with that, I'll take a couple questions. No questions? Thank you very much for being here.
All right. That, of course, that is that press conference that we got there in West Palm Beach, Florida. You're taking a look at the mugshot of Shannon Atkins. Who
He's a hard-looking cookie. And, man, what is it with him? That trunk derangement syndrome really messes them up, don't it? I mean, can't hardly believe how they can. I mean, really, man, that's...
The average person sees hundreds of online ads daily. Here's how a man's life would change if he used Pi. Day one, he would install Pi on his computer without spending.
All right, we continue live. We're at the Capitol. We have a quick report about former President Joe Biden. In the closing moments of the administration, Biden issued sweeping preemptive pardons for his family and his friends, including Dr. Anthony Fauci, General Mark Milley, Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, as if in Schiff Show. And of course, you missed that. Each and every single one of Joe's siblings, which begs the question, what exactly did Joe think that the people would be prosecuted for, and what was he trying to hide? And by the way, where's the outrage from the left and the state-run legacy media mob? They sure were singing a very different tune when the thought was out there that Donald Trump may do preemptive pardons. Let's take a little trip to the Capitol down memory lane, shall we?
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, here it's an effort not only to prospectively pardon people for things they have not yet been charged with and may never be charged with, but also it's the president's own family.
The president's reportedly asking his staff whether he can issue preemptive pardons for himself, his family members, Rudy Giuliani. There's a simple answer: no. No, Mr. President, that would be a gross abuse of the presidential pardon authority.
That all comes as we continue to get new reports, even tonight, that President Trump, as he winds down his last few weeks in office, is considering preemptive pardons for all his adult children, including his son-in-law, Jared. What a mess.
Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. You're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons.
Really? Oh, isn't that nice? The funniest part of that, though, had to be Adam Schiff, right, your old friend? Because he got one of the pardons that he said nobody should have. Anyway, leading that effort would be our next guest to investigate all this, the chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, Jim Jordan, and the chairman of the House Oversight Committee. These guys have done phenomenal work. James Comer has a best-selling book out about the Bidens. Thank you both. How much money did the Biden family make?
The family took in $27 million from our adversaries around the world. They never could say, even when we brought them in for depositions and interviews, what they actually did to receive the money. Then we found, going through their bank records, that they had another $8 million in loans that they never paid back, never paid any interest on or anything. So that's $35 million.
I want that loan. Can I have that loan?
Yeah, right. Wouldn't we all?
I think everybody here would like it. And you expose all of this. Now, I would argue that he forgot one person. Himself.
Well, you know, that what we said in our investigation was that we found 10 different Biden family members, including Joe Biden, profited from the influence peddling schemes. The money would come from a wire from a foreign adversary, usually a foreign oligarch. In some cases, we believe the country of China.
An oligarch. Didn't Joe Biden warn us about oligarchs? Aren't there Elena Baturina, wasn't she an oligarch?
Yes.
The guy in Kazakhstan, the people in Ukraine, the people in China.
Romania.
A lot of oligarchs the Bidens are friends with.
The money would then go through a series of shell companies. Then it would be laundered down. And then the 10 different Biden family members would receive incremental payments. And ironically, 6 of the pardons came from family that received payments that had been laundered. This isn't my word, Sean. These are the words of 6 different banks. They were laundering money through shell companies that the Biden families received. He pardoned them preemptively, and the only place in the world the spouses were ever named was in our investigation in the Oversight and Judiciary Committee. We named those spouses by name. The media, other than your show, Sean, and thank you for being the platform to get this out. Thank God your ratings are higher than MSNBC and CNN combined.
Oh, thank God, too.
The American people.
I second that. Yeah.
The American people saw it.
Thank you. You guys did the digging, the hard work, and you exposed it. Peter Schweitzer deserves a lot of credit, too.
Absolutely.
He wrote the book Secret Empires. President Trump signed this weaponization of government has to stop. Yep. Also revoking 51 former Intel officials that knew nothing about Hunter's laptop and tried to interfere in an election. Jim Jordan, you were there. You investigated every part of this. Didn't Hunter's laptop talk about half his income going to Pops?
Oh, yeah.
Wasn't there a WhatsApp message to the
big
head
guy,
of the CEFC?
Yeah. Right.
Didn't Joe's home repairs get paid for by Hunter Biden, according to emails with their economic guru, Eric Sherwin, if I'm not mistaken?
Yep, all that took place. But what I really think was important today is President Trump did what he said he would do when it came to pardons and people, the defendants of January 6th, and Joe Biden didn't. Joe Biden told us he would never pardon his family, and yet he did all of them. Joe Biden said, there were no pardons needed. We just heard it for folks who were involved with the January 6th committee, and yet he did it. So Joe Biden did exactly opposite what he told us he was going to do. President Trump kept his word, did exactly what he said. I think that's the big takeaway from the actions we see from both the outgoing president and, of course,
okay, here's the big question. Is this over? Because my understanding, Alan Dershowitz's understanding, is once you get a pardon, you no longer have the Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. If they go before your committees, every one of these pardoned family members, don't they have to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help them God?
There's a number of things we want to look at. Everything's on the table. But I really think one of the keys is the report we got just right before, just a few weeks ago, was with the 26 confidential human sources. 26 confidential human sources here on January 6, 2021, 17 inside restricted space, 4 in the Capitol. 2 of those 4 in the Capitol were tasked to be here by the FBI. I think there are all kinds of questions we have for those individuals.
I have 5 people that said Trump authorized the use of the Guard days before. So did the Capitol Police Chief, by the way, begging for the National Guard. In writing, Muriel Bowser denied the use of the National Guard. It was her authorization.
Sorry about that. We can't have that crap playing, bros.
I'm going to London at April.
Do you mean I am going to London in April?
I'm going to London in April.
Yes, we use in for...
Well, President Trump just gave a new update on his immigration crackdown. He's sending a strong and clear message. During the Biden administration, we saw footage like this. The federal government flying migrants into the country under cover of darkness. Now, the Trump White House is posting pictures like these. Those are illegal immigrants being ushered onto deportation flights from Briggs Army Base in Texas. A defense official now telling Fox News, quote, "We can confirm that overnight, 2 DoD aircraft conducted repatriation flights from the United States to Guatemala." Here's the president just a short time ago.
Going very well. We're getting the bad, hard criminals out. These are murderers. These are people that have been as bad as you get, as bad as anybody you've seen. We're taking them out first.
Kaylee is vicious, as hard as you've ever seen. We are taking them out first. And as you aptly noted in the last block, when talking about what's to come, you said single file lines of adult males.
Yes, this is so well thought out, Emily. This was methodical. It's surgical, the way they are going after these criminal migrants. And the imagery, the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, posted this footage, this image of a plane, and you see a line of single adult males. You know, this isn't AOC languishing at the southern border in a white suit. They're combating those images with the images of hardened criminals, the videos of hardened criminals like we saw yesterday. And instead of resistance, they're getting some acquiescence. You see that imagery there. Governor Maura Healey, for example, said she supports what she's seeing with these deportations. She used to say she'd resist Trump with every tool. But then you have actors like J.B. Pritzker saying, "I'm not working with him. What he's doing is wrong. He's not in any way trying to extend a hand to the federal government." And meanwhile, federal government's put out a list of the people that have been apprehended, one of whom is from the state that Pritzker represents, Illinois, who has reckless bodily harm on his rap sheet. He has burglary, assault with a deadly weapon, and more. So those are the kind of winners that Democrats seem to be protecting right now.
Yeah, the crimes that these people have been convicted of are absolutely horrible.
Battery, not burglary. Sorry about that.
Some are burglary too, but battery's a lot worse. I want to dive in a little bit to what you were just saying, which is how governors are responding. Some of them now changing their tune, right? And some blue state ones. So let's take a listen to this flip-flop from the governor of Massachusetts. Watch.
If the Trump administration requests it, would the Massachusetts State Police assist in mass deportations?
No, absolutely not. Every tool in the toolbox has got to be used to protect our citizens, to protect our residents, and protect our state.
I wouldn't describe them as raids. What it seems to be is what we expected and what I support, which is the apprehension of criminals in our communities.
Harris, a different tune, which, by the way, I don't want to condemn. I am grateful for anyone that joins it. You know, I don't want to say, oh, they're flip-flopping. You know what? Good. Exactly. Thank you. Too little, too late, but you are welcome.
I love that balanced approach to this that you're putting forth, because it's important.
Yeah.
Like you say, look, when someone comes online and they do what they need to do, let's not tear that down. Let's hope they keep doing it. But we can't miss the fact, and I thought the word you used, you called J.B. Pritzker an actor. He is in this instance. And so let's hope that this rendition of his performance is one that sticks for a while, where it is at least allowed to happen. If he decides to take a different position and become a different character in all of this, will we get video of him blocking the way of that person from his state that was rounded up, that horrible criminal who'd already broken the law by coming here illegally? Because I'd like to play that on the air. Like if Pritzker would like to defend these people without the court and just his old love for illegal immigrants, bring it on. I'd love to see that. Now, the second wave that Tom Homan, the borders are for Trump has told me about in all of this will focus on those missing children, hundreds of thousands of them that we know. And that number has started to already come down, Emily, from 300,000. So they've found about 75 to 80,000 of those kids already. If they can get the list of these guys, 4 full days in office for Trump,
if they can get the list of where some of those kids have been, and they've been identifying it, since the election, going after them and trying to find those little ones, what in the world was Biden's administration doing? What was Secretary of Homeland Mayorkas doing when he said to the committees on Capitol Hill, we don't know where those kids are, I'll look into it? No, dude, you obviously had a better way to find them, and you didn't do your job. I can't believe they impeached him and didn't remove him.
It's just incredible what a little competence can do, or in this case, Dagan, what a lot of competence can do. And when we talk about, as Harris was saying, those leaders that talk about protecting people, the reality is that the Americans were left unprotected for the last 4 years, and that these terrible rap sheets, the viciousness of these recidivists here, the reality is a lot of the victims were American citizens. So it is Americans being protected, most of them, by the way, women and children, by these deportations.
This was pain, suffering, misery, and murder rained down on the American people intentionally by Joe Biden and company. And it's telling the lack of a public outcry about these deportations. And again, there are 1.4 million illegal migrants in this country, at least, with deportation orders in place. So it's the lack of public outcry from even the most far-left lunatics that tells you how much this country rejected what the Biden administration did, not to the nation, but the individuals, the families, and even the women and children who suffered at the hands of human traffickers, the people who died in this nation because of the drug traffickers. There was a raid out in New Jersey, and I think that there was one American so far, based on the kind of hazy reporting, who was detained as part of that raid. And the two left-wing senators put out a statement, and they said something like, our broken immigration system requires solutions, not fear tactics. Well, the fear came from what your ilk did the last 4 years. This is giving people solace and certainty and a notion of safety that Joe Biden and you, Corey, and Senator Kim did not. So have a seat. People want this cleaned up.
That's right. And it is just the beginning.
Emily, I think there's a connection here between the national security problem and a public health crisis. And I think that President Trump and company is now fixing it. 5.4 million illegals came in here under Biden without a medical exam of any kind. 1.9 million gotaways without a medical exam of any kind. That includes mental status, depression, anxiety, which is feeding all of these crimes, and the drug abuse that Dagan was just talking about, and them being gateways for drugs. They come here really anxious, really depressed, nowhere to go, not supposed to be here, not screened medically for things like syphilis, for heart disease, for infections, which then spreads to American citizens. So hooray that this is being reversed.
Hey, everyone. I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kayleigh McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.
Gianno Caldwell and Molly Line, and welcome to the Big Weekend Show. The big story tonight. President Trump just received an invitation from Speaker Mike Johnson to address a joint session of Congress on March 4th as part of his busy first 100 days in office. But before he heads to D.C., the president was in Las Vegas today, where he just wrapped up a speech on his campaign promise of no tax on tips. Here's what he said.
Under our leadership, we're going to defeat inflation, bring down prices. We're going to raise those wages. They're going to go up. They're going to go up. Put more money in your pockets. No tax on tips. No tax on tips. Your tips will be 100% yours. Many of these workers are some of the very citizens who were hit hard and very hard by the ravages of the Biden economy. We had a great economy, the greatest economy that we've ever had 4 years ago, but this is going to be better. You watch.
After a speech, Trump was seen hitting a casino, further signaling his support of the hospitality industry. He has been winning a lot lately, so. All right. Well, Lucas Tomlinson is in Las Vegas tonight with the latest. Lucas.
Well, good evening, Lisa. Nevada, of course, part of the 7 swing state sweep that propelled President Trump back to the White House. And he came here to Las Vegas to thank his supporters, many employed in the service industry in some of the largest hotels in the world. And he wanted them to know he doesn't want to see any taxes on tips, just like the sign behind me says.
But I'm sure you haven't heard, but we're going to get it for you. No.
I thought Pete Hegseth got sworn out.
You're not a child, you're a man. So stop wearing so many layers to go outside and get the bearskin tactical.
We are watching the U.S. Senate in a dramatic late-night session. Senators voted on the nomination of Pete Hegseth as defense secretary, and J.D. Vance has just voted to break the tie. It was 50-50.
The vice president votes in the affirmative, and the nomination is confirmed.
All right, y'all. I'm not sure if you've heard the great news or not yet, but praise the Lord that Pete Hegseth just got confirmed as our next Secretary of Defense. He did it in the face of neocon rhinos like Mitch McConnell and other senators voting no because they despise the best interests of we the people. Even with Democrats trying to smear and sabotage this God-fearing patriot, father, and husband's reputation with a bunch of lies. Guess what, though? In spite of all the lawlessness going on, once again, God showed that he's good all the time, and all the time he's good. He sheds his grace on those who give glory where it belongs, Jesus Christ. And I truly believe that the future here in America is going to be real bright, and it's going to be gooder than chicken for all of us who keep doing that. Because if you got Jesus, you can't lose because he's already won. Amen. Let's get it poppin'.
And as Jenny and I pray together every morning, all glory, regardless of the outcome, belongs to our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. His grace and mercy abounds each day. May his will be done.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge.
And that I will well and faithfully discharge
The duties of the office on which I am about to enter.
the duties of the office of which I am about to enter.
So help you God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Mr. Secretary.
Good boy, good boy.
All praise and glory to God. His will be done, and we're grateful to be here. And as I said in my hearing, it was Jesus and Jenny. I would not be here without you, sweetheart. Thank you so much. I want to thank the President of the United States, our Commander-in-Chief, Donald Trump. We could not have a better Commander-in-Chief than him. It is the honor of a lifetime, sir, to serve under you. We look forward to having the backs of our troops and having your back in executing peace through strength, in putting America first, and in rebuilding our military. Mr. Vice President, thank you for breaking the tie. It's not the last time, or not the first time the headline reads, Junior Enlisted Marine bails out Junior Army Officer. And, you know, some people were saying, well, 50-50, that's too tight. And Senator Mark Wayne Mullen was nice enough to take my kids up to the gallery to watch the actual moment that the Vice President sealed the deal. And they came running in. They said, Dad, instead of being sad about 50-50, 51-50, they said, Dad, you won in overtime. That's the perspective I like. So thank you throughout this process, Mr. Vice President, for being incredible. I also want to thank the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee. So many members of the Senate Armed Services Committee, we became fast friends in this process. The advice, the consent, the wisdom, the guidance. I look forward to working with all of you and other senators to ensure the Defense Department has what it needs, that our nation has what it needs, and that we're prepared to defend it in all moments. To my staff, amazing staff who were with us this entire process, I see so many of you through thick and thin. We used to look at the betting odds every once in a while on this. It was low. Never do that. But we defied them. And there were so many folks on the inside and then allies on the outside who stood by us every single moment. And we are eternally grateful for that. And I want to thank the warfighters. I want to thank the men and women wearing the uniform. And I've said this before when I speak, and I mean it. Every time I stand at a podium and there's bright lights and cameras, the first thing that goes through my head are the guys that I served with on the battlefield. The men and the women who I lock shields with and put my life on the line with, who never get the spotlight, who never have the cameras, who people don't know what they did in dark and dangerous places. But I know. And at the Pentagon, we're going to remember and we're going to know. And we're going to think about those warriors with every single decision that we make. We will put America first. We will bring peace through strength. And the three principles I talked about are what we will bring to that Pentagon. Restore the warrior ethos in everything that we do. Rebuild our military and reestablish deterrence. We don't want to fight war. We want to deter them, as you said. And we want to end them responsibly. But if we need to fight them, we're going to bring overwhelming and decisive force to close with and destroy the enemy, to bring our voice. To my other family that's here as well, who I love, it's the honor of a lifetime. And I would be remiss if I didn't know one person in this room who doesn't expect to be recognized, but Captain Araujo is here. He was my company commander on my first deployment in Guantanamo Bay. He was there on June 3rd, 2003, when I first swore in as a second lieutenant at Princeton University. He swore me in, and I wanted to make sure he was here today with me as well. Thank you very much. So, Mr. President, thank you very much to the American people. We have your back. We're going to get to work right away. God bless. Thank you.
Now, it is true and has been acknowledged that I don't have a similar biography to defense secretaries of the last 30 years. But as
Texas was waiting and wondering.
As President Trump also told me, we've repeatedly placed people atop the Pentagon with supposedly the right credentials, whether they are retired generals, academics, or defense contractor executives. And where has it gotten us? He believes, and I humbly agree, that it's time to give someone with dust on his boots the helm. A change agent, someone with no vested interest in certain companies or specific programs or approved narratives. My only special interest is the warfighter. Deterring wars, and if called upon, winning wars by ensuring our warriors never enter a fair fight. We let them win, and we bring them home. Like many of my generation, I've been there. I've led troops in combat. I've been on patrol for days. I've pulled a trigger downrange, heard bullets whiz by, flex-cuffed insurgents, called in close air support, led medevacs, dodged IEDs, pulled out dead bodies, and knelt before a battlefield cross. This is not academic for me. This is my life. I led then, and I will lead now.
Pete, I'm actually going to ask you questions because I want to hear your answer. How many genders are there? Tough one.
Senator, there are two genders.
I know that well. I'm a she, so I'm on board. What is the diameter of the rifle round fired out of an M4 A1 rifle?
That's a 5.56.
How many push-ups can you do?
I did 5 sets of 47 this morning.
What do you think are most important strategic bases in the Pacific?
In the Pacific, Guam is pretty strategically significant.
How many rounds of 5.56 can you fit into the magazine of an M4 rifle?
Depends on the magazine, but standard issue is 30. Senator.
And what size round does the M9 Beretta standard issue sidearm for the military fire?
A 9mm, Senator.
What kind of batteries do you put in your night vision goggle?
Duracell.
So right there, you're representing qualifications that show you understand what the warfighter deals with every single day on the battlefield. You understand what happens on the front line where our troops will be. And what happens, unfortunately, in this country is decisions made in rooms like this, bad decisions, end up in dead 17, 18, 19-year-old Americans. And those Americans rarely come from families that sit in rooms like this. They come from lower, middle-income families who sometimes the military is their only way out. And they join because maybe they want to go to college. Maybe they had no other choice. Maybe they love this country. But for whatever reason, they joined and they sat on the dotted line. And when people like us screw up, they don't come home. And that's the one thing that I care about. As you remember when I shut the door, when you came with your entourage, Senator Coleman, I've known for a long time, and you and I sat together, asked you one question. You remember what that question was?
Are you going to have the backs of the war fighters?
Exactly. What is going to be your number one priority? And I don't care, frankly, what all these letters and articles say. I've been a part of a smear campaign too, I get it. I care that you're going to have one thing in mind when you sit in that chair in that 5-sided building. And you told me what that was.
Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe if you're not already, ring that notification bell so you get notified anytime I post a new video. If you like what I'm doing.
That's a good deal. Head chef got confirmed. It truly is.
If a man really hated ads, here's what he would do. Day 1, he would install Pi on his computer without spending a dime because...
What about the mercy and love for Lake and Rowley? Yes. What about the mercy and love for Jocelyn Nungare? What about all the unaccompanied minors? What was it? The report from August 2024 revealed 320,000 unaccompanied migrants because of Biden's open border.
In the name of our God, I ask you to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared now. There are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families. Some who fear for their lives. And the people who pick our crops and clean our office buildings, who labor in poultry farms and meat packing plants, who wash the dishes after we eat in restaurants and work the night shifts in hospitals. They may not be citizens or have the proper documentation, but the vast majority of immigrants are not criminals. They pay taxes and are good neighbors. They are faithful members of our churches and mosques, synagogues, wadara, and temples. I ask you to have mercy, Mr. President, on those in our communities whose children fear that their parents will be taken away, and that you help those who are fleeing war zones and persecution in their own lands to find compassion and welcome here. Our God teaches us that we are to be merciful to the stranger, for we were all once strangers in this land. May God grant us the strength and courage to honor the dignity of every human being, to speak the truth to one another in love, and walk humbly with each other and our God.
I called her the butch bitch bishop. Okay, because that's what she looks like. I mean, this falsetto
I like the alliteration.
Voice, and, you know, she wants to be so soft-spoken. The butch bitch bishop. First of all, LGBTQ people are, if they're American, they're Americans. Mm-hmm. There's no exclusion if they are Americans. Mm-hmm. What she's trying to do in using the pulpit to basically push her own views, it was not the biblical view. It was not even the American view. Mm-hmm. They are all Americans. She was trying to basically have President Trump discriminate and based on their little special privileges. Look, if we're not supposed to discriminate on sex or race or whatever other conditions, then why the hell do we have to discriminate legally, if you will, based on these people who they choose to screw? I mean, that's ridiculous. This is discrimination on the opposite side. They get no special privileges because you choose to screw and call yourself a man or a woman when you're the opposite sex. You don't get it. You are American. Our Constitution, that is our ultimate law of the land. Look, bitch. Bishop, sit down, get out of the pulpit, number one. I mean, get some damn backbone and stop using the pulpit for your own agenda. President Trump, I would have walked out too.
Yep.
If I was Melania or J.D. Vance's wife or whomever, one of his daughters or daughters-in-law, I would have walked out and I would have made a scene on the way out.
I don't know if I would have made a scene. I probably would have just put my and just eat, because they was on the front row. I would have eased my way on out. But the truth of the matter is, many of that denomination's churches are, quote unquote, designed for alternative communities. The problem is there's no truth in what she said.
Exactly.
None. There's no truth. And she's asking them to show love while she's showing them hate. So, you know, when you look at the disparity, here's this woman who had the perfect opportunity to say something loving to both sides. It's like, you know, she could have easily said to the people who are hurting, who are afraid, I can tell you, I'm here in the room with him now, and he has nothing but love for all Americans. She could have, you know, did something even ground, but this was her bully pulpit moment. Did it fall flat? Has she been dragged on socials for it? Absolutely. Oh, yeah. There's a time and a place for things, and honey, this ain't it. No. This is not the time, this is not the place, but she sold herself short, and now she's going to go down in history as
the butch bitch bishop.
I co-sign on that 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
100%.
First of all, she's talking about showing mercy, showing love. What about the mercy and love for Lake and Rowley?
Yes.
What about the mercy and love for Jocelyn Nungare? Rachel Morin, right here in Maryland. What about that? What about all the unaccompanied minors? What was it? The report from August 2024 revealed 320,000 unaccompanied migrants because of Biden's open border. What about all of the people who have died from fentanyl overdoses and things from coming across that border, who have been trafficked? What about all of those love and mercy? Let me tell you something. This demon on a pulpit, demon, bitch, bishop, whatever you want to call her, she's the demonic, is not of God.
Bishop.
This is not of God, because guess what? She is advocating for chaos. She's advocating for an open border. She's advocating for not being accountable. These people doing different murders and different types of lawlessness. That is chaos. It is not of God. It is of Satan. And this is what we call them by their names.
Yep.
Her God is not my God. And just like you all said, I would have got up out of there and left. She shouldn't have been there in the first place. She shouldn't have been there. What female shouldn't be a bishop at all anyway? All right, that's another thing for another day. A bishop, women should not be in the pulpit. It's not in the Bible. It's not biblical, and we can see why she proved it. Nothing biblical came out of her mouth. If she wanted to do some type of unity, start with Jesus. If you're in church and you want to talk about unity, you want to talk about us all coming together, start with Jesus. You're supposed to be a Christian. I didn't hear Jesus in anything you said.
The demon on the dais.
The demon on the dais. There was no love in what she
Nothing.
said. This was purely political theater. But KJ, you're going to feel this on a spiritual level. We know the demons can't stand truth and light.
Oh, yeah.
So by his mere election, you see him coming out the woodwork. Oh, yeah. You see him coming out the woodwork. The good news is that we're in a different position now where we don't have to be the minority voice. That we can step up and say, demon. Demon. And call it for what it
is.
Call it for what it is. There was no love. And that's one of the cornerstones of that particular church, to love all beings, to love all people. Where was the love? No. Where was the love?
But this is what this is what they do. We see this. They try to use culture. They try to prey on fleshly things, like they come out, dancing, drinking. They try to again, they try to be more like the culture and less like Christ. They try to, you see that they're feeding on their ego because people like Jamal Bryant, people like her, all they want is the spotlight. Here she is on The View today. This is clip 10. Take a look.
I want to tell you a story.
I used to believe that Jesus was a Catholic God of the Gentiles.
I imagined that Jesus was Italian. The New Testament was one of those books that I saw nuns reading on the subway. I was expecting to find a handbook on how to persecute the Jews. I'm reading a story written by Jews about Jewish people. One thing you don't do is you don't talk about Jesus.
I'm gonna get ostracized. They're gonna think I'm crazy.
Are you out of your mind? You're not Jewish anymore.
Absolutely not. Do not look into this.
You are a traitor to your people. Jesus was the Messiah.
He wants relationship. He wants fellowship. Believing in Jesus is the most Jewish thing I can do.
I mean, to have a close relationship with God, the truth is worth it. Life with Yeshua would be worth it.
I've been involved in Jewish outreach for over 30 years. This new form of evangelism that One for Israel so effectively uses is really revolutionary in 2,000 years. The ministry of One for Israel is an extremely valuable one in effectively communicating to the world that Jesus is a Jew, that Jesus is the Messiah of our Jewish people, and that Jewish people are coming to faith in Messiah in several different languages, but most notably in modern Hebrew, into all corners of the Jewish world, to a generation of young Israelis who are in communities that would frown upon their investigation of Jesus. Many of them have phones or have tablets and are viewing the One for Israel videos either in Hebrew or in English, and are effectively being reached for Yeshua, for Jesus the Messiah. If you want to be on the crust of what God is doing now, the gospel of Jesus the Jewish Messiah is going out from Israel to the world. It's a revolution. It hasn't been seen in 2,000 years.
Thank you. So let me ask you this. You seem to have more fearlessness than anyone in Congress right now, ma'am. What made you decide to use that opportunity for this message, or didn't you have any apprehension about it?
Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to be with you today. My responsibility that morning, yesterday morning, was to reflect, to pray with the nation for unity. And as I was pondering what are the foundations of unity, I wanted to emphasize respecting the honor and dignity of every human being, basic honesty and humility. And then I also realized that that unity requires a certain degree of mercy and compassion and understanding. And so knowing that a lot of people, as I said, in our country right now are really scared, I wanted to take the opportunity in the context of that of service for unity to say we need to treat everyone with dignity. And
wow, that's a bunch of crock. I'm sick of them with this language changing. Unity requires a certain amount of mercy. No, it doesn't. Unity means you are around a certain set of values. And for the country, your sermon, if you want to call it that, only focused on what you think the LGBT and whomever other groups you name, illegals, what they should have, and the rights that, quote unquote, that they should have at the expense of all the other 76 plus million people who voted for President Trump and this particular administration. What about those rights? What about the unity of those people? And notice, outside, I don't hear anyone saying, maybe there are some people, I don't hear them. Maybe there's no one saying that, oh, you're excluded and you're excluded. No, if you look, our tent has grown. It has included all kinds of people from whatever walks of life. All we're saying is be an American, practice your religion, whatever it is, but our Constitution and the American values are what matter, not who the hell you sleep with, not if you want to be a dick pretending that you're a chick, and vice versa. None of that matters. That's not the value. That's your personal preference. But we don't have to make it the law of the land. Butch, go sit down somewhere. Get off the damn pulpit. Just get off, okay? Because you're sickening.
Yeah. I want to acknowledge our super chatters here. We have Laura with the $2 super chat says, that's a guy. Who knows? Who knows? It's whatever it is.
Definitely a lesbian.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. It's not, Rico says, I'm surprised President Trump didn't walk out. Yeah, I am too, but I mean, that's actually being respectful. I mean,
that was respect. That was mercy.
Yeah. Okay, in that sense, yes.
Yeah, Laura says, hi, ladies. I thought she was a dude. Yeah, I mean, who knows what she is, but she shouldn't be in the pulpit. I do know
what
that.
she is dumb. Let's start there. She's dumb. And not because I disagree with her, but dumb because she missed an opportunity to elevate her church, her, as she says, her God, because apparently we don't have the same one, her God. She missed an opportunity to really thoughtfully present her argument. But what she reverted back to was tired-ass Democrat talking points that almost as tired as she looked. She looked like she'd been put through the ringer 3 or 4 times. And don't give me that life of poverty stuff. We don't do that here in D.C. Everybody here got to hustle, and this was her hustle, and she missed her moment.
But we know what this is. This is the white liberal. This is the white liberal. This woman is not new to this. She was out in 2016, I believe, or 2020, 2016.
She's an activist.
Yeah, she's an activist. She was out advocating for George Floyd protesters when they initially burnt that church down. She did not want any accountability for these people. These are the white liberals. She is a Marxist, and she's pushing her Marxist agenda. Again, as we mentioned, they have infiltrated churches, institutions, all other kinds of institutions here. And this is what they do. And, so it really is not surprising. But my last and final thing on this is, repent. Repent, woman.
Torpedoes,
and not
ahead.
only that,
Problem
but
solved, sir.
the biggest way you show love is by obedience. Obedience to God's word. And everything that you said, from the LGBT kids and all this type of stuff, the trans kids, all of that is not obedient to God's word. Who would sit there and advocate for girls having their breasts removed, little boys having their penises removed, going against God's design for our bodies? This is it's not biblical. It's not even sane. And this is what you push. So I hope people were able to see it for what it was. Get past all that. It's unity. We want it all to come together, and that's fake. And that is a deceit. It's a what do you call it? Deceptive. It's a deception of the devil. That's how they come. They come in wrapped in tolerance and fluffy flowers and all this type of stuff to reel you in when they're being deceptive. There's no truth there or anything. This is what Donald Trump said. The so-called bishop who spoke at the National Prayer Service on Tuesday morning was a radical left hardline Trump hater. Yes, she was. She brought her church into the world of politics in a very, very ungracious way. She was nasty in tone and not compelling or smart. She failed to mention the large number of illegal migrants that came into our country and killed people. Many were deposited from jails and mental institutions. It is a giant crime wave that is taking place in the USA. Apart from her inappropriate statements, the service was a very boring and uninspiring one. She is not very good at her job. She and her church owe the public an apology. She really does, because it set aside the unbiblical things that she said. It was very divisive.
It was very divisive. It only focused on her agenda. Like you said, she brought the shame, if you will, whatever word he used, to her church. There was no message, like you said, elevating her church. It was about what she thinks is best, or whatever the agenda that she gets to determine for this administration. Damn that, and damn you, Butch.
Yeah, and it was pretty boring. I feel Trump on that. Having somebody whisper, yell at you is terrible.
Oh, yeah.
It's a horrible situation.
Problem solved, sir.
There's
Now we have a guy who was convicted for being
This
in the
guy
wrong
got
place at the
pardoned.
wrong time. His name is Brandon Straka, comes to us from D.C. He got a pardon. Initially, he pled guilty to disorderly conduct on Capitol grounds, October 2021. Received 36 months probation, including 3 months home detention, $5,000 fine, $500 restitution. You do not believe you were treated fairly in this case. Is that correct?
100%. Yeah, absolutely not.
In a nutshell, don't go in the weeds. What was unfair?
Well, the details of my case weren't true. So important for people to know, I didn't enter the Capitol on January 6th. I was outside of the east side of the building for 8 minutes shooting a video. So there are 4 major details of my case that were blatant fabrications by the FBI and DOJ. One was that I entered into a restricted area of Capitol grounds and knew that the area was restricted, but did it anyway. When I arrived at Capitol grounds, and by the way, I was a scheduled speaker at a permitted event on Capitol grounds. So not the area where I was, but on an outer area of the grounds, I was supposed to be a speaker. But I started getting text messages saying that something was happening at the Capitol and people were going inside. So I started shooting a video and I approached the Capitol from the east side. The barricades at the time were fully open. There were no signs indicating that people were not allowed to be there. There were literally 0 police officers on the east side of the building when I was there. And there was a crowd of thousands of people standing outside. So I walked up the open sidewalk and into a crowd of thousands of people. And this is when, according to the DOJ, I committed my first felony. So they charged me with a felony charge of occupying restricted grounds. In other words, a trespassing felony outside of the Capitol. But then I walked to the top of the stairs, and when I got to the top of the stairs, the doors on the east side of the Capitol were open. There were a crowd of several hundred people. Some were trying to push their way in. The majority, like me, were standing outside shooting a video. I stood outside of the building for 8 minutes shooting a video, and then a man came out of the building, got on a bullhorn, and said, "They've cleared Congress. Everyone's left the building. Move out, move out." And I immediately turned around and I left. And then I uploaded that video that I had just shot to Twitter. 2.5 weeks later, I was raided by the FBI. A team of agents in tactical gear came into my apartment, began stripping it of computers, phones, hard drives, iPads, etc., put me in handcuffs and took me to jail and told me I was facing multiple felony charges for what I had done.
Let me stop you there. So you never went inside the Capitol building?
I did not enter the Capitol on January 6th.
All right, you were outside. All right.
Correct.
So they come in and they arrest you. Now, you hired an attorney, a guy named Stuart Dornan, right?
Correct.
Now, did you have to pay for him?
I did. I had a private attorney.
Okay. And what did he tell you when you hired him?
So when I met with my attorney, what he had told me was that I was facing multiple felonies, but that he had had a conversation with the prosecutor, and the prosecutor told him that they were open to dropping the felony charges if I was willing to plead guilty to a misdemeanor. The problem with that, I mean, besides the fact that I assert that I wasn't even guilty of a misdemeanor charge, unless perhaps you wanted to say I was in a restricted area and I was in the wrong place, fine. But the problem is they didn't leave it at that. What they said was that I stood outside of the building shouting, "Go, go, go," to encourage people to go into the building, and that I witnessed the crowd taking a shield from an officer, and that I shouted, take it," to encourage the crowd.
Do they have videotape of that?
No.
Okay, that was just the allegation. But I'm interested in what your attorney told you, and then we'll get it. I'm not doubting your story. I want all my viewers and listeners. I'm not doubting Brandon's story at all. But I want to walk through the process so that everybody understands what you guys went through. Okay. So
absolutely.
Dornan is your lawyer. You're paying Dornan out of your own pocket. And the government says, okay, plea it down, which happens all the time. Does Dornan recommend you plea it down?
A lawyer really can't recommend anything. What a lawyer can tell you is these are your options, and this is what I think is going to happen.
My lawyers recommend, Brandon, all the time. Do this, do that, do this, do that. I don't know about this guy, but you're telling that he was neutral on this? He didn't say plea it down or fight it? He didn't give you one of the two?
What he told me was that we could fight it all the way to the end if we wanted to, but we both knew, and I didn't need to be told, that we were going before a DC judge and a DC jury in a very biased political case, and that the likelihood of being successful at trial was very, very small.
But they didn't have hard evidence of what they were accusing you of, which is inciting a riot. Go with it. There's no evidence at all in discovery. Dornan didn't find anything like that. It was no smoking gun, to use a cliche. Is that correct?
Well, there was no smoking gun, but when I stood outside the building and I filmed, my camera captured somebody grab a shield from one officer who walked by, and you could hear voices in the background shouting, "Take it, take it." It's quite obvious.
It wasn't your voice.
The voices were not mine.
Okay.
I didn't.
All right, and again, I'm believing you. I'm like the Ghostbusters, all right? I'm believing you. All right, so you sign the guilty plea, and it's disorderly conduct, and then you have to go through a 3-month ordeal, a 3-year ordeal of probation, of home confinement, of fines. All right. Do you regret signing that?
This guy's story.
Guilty.
He says he was shooting after shooting the video, and they come along 2 months later, arrested him. Then he had to plead guilty on some bounty charges, and it's I mean, I felt President Trump should have pardoned him, man. In all honesty, you know. Yeah, I figured.
See everything from miles away with this powerful U.S. Special Forces device. This new military monocular is
Patriots. I'm Lee Watts, and this is Patriot Point, your source for Kentucky news and analysis from a conservative, Christian, and common sense point of view. Well, there seems to be a whole lot of talk about pardons here very recently, so we're going to be looking about a new Kentucky law which is up for a vote dealing with the power for the governor to give pardons. We're also going to talk about how Biden, in his very last hour in office, pardoned a Kentucky politician who was a convicted felon. We're also going to talk about how the Biden pardons could legally be revoked. Let's look at a few things about these pardons. First of all, you'll notice that Biden gave a bunch of preemptive pardons. Let me ask you a question. What are these people being pardoned for? Usually to be a pardon, you have to actually have done something. I looked up for a biblical example about pardons, and there's a lot of pardons in the Bible, but every single time the person had committed a crime, and that's why they were being pardoned. I think it should be noted, and everybody write this down wherever you write stuff down, that he gave 5 pardons to his family, in addition to the one he already gave Hunter, bringing the total to 6. And all of his family pardons go back to, specifically, 2014. What is there in the Biden family history that he wants them specifically to be not able to be criminally charged from 2014? Don't know the answer. Got a few guesses, and everybody write that down in case it comes out later. Now, of course, the Democrats are perfectly fine with all of this. However, they didn't like the idea of preemptive pardons or pardons for specifically your family members back in 2020. Trump didn't do this, but he had thought about it. And the Democrats didn't seem to like preemptive pardons back then. Notice what they said back in 2020.
The president's reportedly asking his staff whether he can issue preemptive pardons for himself, his family members, Rudy Giuliani. There's a simple answer: no. No, Mr. President, that would be a gross abuse of the presidential pardon authority.
Do you think that those pardons are appropriate? Do you think they would be legal?
I don't think they are appropriate at all.
Is there an innocent explanation for someone to seek preemptive pardons for family members? Would you do that if you knew you were innocent and just worried about outside forces?
The answer to that is going to be no. And
if you haven't done anything wrong, you sit there and go, what do you need a preemptive pardon for?
It begs the question, why is there a need for a pardon here in the first place? People who've done nothing wrong do not need to be pardoned. And to me, it would raise flags for other prosecutors and other investigators, state prosecutors, not bound by the pardon, to take a close look.
They say that they haven't done anything wrong. Well, why would you be pardoning them preemptively if you didn't think they might have done something wrong?
Have you ever heard of somebody getting a preemptive pardon who was innocent of all crime? Who's just an innocent person? Have you ever heard of that? Just somebody getting a blanket pardon and they're an innocent person?
But no, here it's an effort not only to prospectively pardon people for things they have not yet been charged with and may never be charged with, but also it's the president's own family. It's people that have been covering up for the president in addition to his own family.
So once again, we see the Democrats changing their tune completely based on who is actually giving a pardon and today. Well, now let's look at a new law that is up for a vote here in Kentucky that directly affects a governor's ability to give a pardon or not. And that is Senate Bill number 126, proposed by Kentucky State Senator Christian McDaniel. And according to this bill, then the governor's power to give pardons would stop 30 days before a gubernatorial election, and it would not go back into effect until Inauguration Day. Now, really, the idea behind this is sometimes you get a governor on their way out. They're not going to be in office anymore. The election's coming up. They'll just pardon a whole bunch of people on their way out the door, and it usually makes a ton of people mad. And it's done for political reasons most of the time. So this law would say, listen, before the election and up until the new Inauguration Day, the governor has no power to pardon. Personally, I think that's a good idea, that it's Senate Bill number 126. Personally, I would take it a little farther. Why in the world should the governor or the president have the power to pardon a convicted criminal? This is a violation of the constitutional principle of the separation of powers. Here you have the executive branch that is taking the power of the judicial branch. The president or the governor, they're not the one who was at the court case to hear the evidence. They're not the victim in the crime. The victim had their day in court, had to go through all of that, had the offender convicted, and yet they're like, even though you are guilty, you can completely just walk away for free. I think this is a travesty of justice, so I don't think they really have this, but they didn't ask me whether they should have this ability or not when they wrote the Constitution. So it does exist, so I think this should be really gotten way up. It's a carryover from the days of kings and nobility when they had the power to pardon all of their friends from many crimes. But Senate Bill 126 would take away a Kentucky governor's ability to pardon 30 days before an election up to the day of inauguration. Good step in the right direction. Now let's talk about a Kentucky politician who, on the very last day of Biden's presidency, the last day and the last hour in office, Biden issued a whole bunch of pardons, more than 72,000 pardons, including pardoning cop killers and other things like that. And he also pardoned a Kentucky politician, a convicted felon, a guy by the name of Jerry Lundergan. You may recognize him because a few years ago, he was convicted for sending more than $200,000 illegally to the campaign of his daughter, Allison Lundergan Grimes, who at that time was running to replace Mitch McConnell as a U.S. Senator. So he sent her campaign illegally more than $200,000. He was found guilty of that, convicted. However, Biden has given him a presidential pardon. By the way, just thought I'd throw this in. This guy was twice the chairman of the Democratic Party of Kentucky. Now, let's get to our last issue, which is how is it possible to actually revoke the pardons that Joe Biden has given on his way out the door? I believe, yes, there is. However, it has to be done in a very quick and specific way. I think the only way this could legally be done is if they were to take Joe Biden to court and say he is not mentally competent when he was issuing these pardons. Therefore, the pardons should not be standing. Of course, if they want to do that, they would have to challenge this quickly to do a cognitive test. Because if they wait, they can say, well, he may not pass the test now, but he would have been fine back then. So it'd have to be done quickly. I do not expect this to be done. However, I think it should be done. And if it were to be done, it has to be done quickly. Really, this power to pardon ought to be thrown out the window. that's a little bit about what's going on in Kentucky politics, felons being pardoned, and a new law which might change the way pardons happen in Kentucky. So until next week, Patriots, I'm Lee Watts for Patriot Point, reminding you that liberty is not a spectator sport.
That's the truth, man.
This is heavy. It's warm. Loads of pockets. I'm impressed with it. This is the best skin.
Best skin.
Best skin.
So, I mean, they claimed it was a grassroots march, but do protests like this one ahead of the inauguration just pop out of nowhere? Or are there seeds carefully planted and tended to in what's really an act of deception? Joining me now to talk about the secret work that goes into mass gatherings is Azra Nomani. So she's the author of Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America's freedom. So let's start with last Saturday's anti-Trump march as an example. Who was behind it? What was their ultimate goal? I remember we had Mike Carter on last week, and he was interviewing people, and I don't think they even knew what the hell they were there for.
It's really comical. It's an organized street protest by multi-million-dollar organizations that we see are flooding the streets. I saw this, and we all saw this, in 2016 when President Trump was elected, the so-called resistance and the Women's March. Well, they rebranded as the People's March this last weekend, and what I found by just asking for the permit of the organization that filed for this protest was that it was organized by a for-profit company called Movement Catalyst. And these guys are LLC. You know, they have been organized forever in Washington, D.C., since protests began, but now they are a for-profit company, and they are basically making this an industry. Let me just correct it. The company is actually Momentum Catalyst, because that's what they're trying to do, is create this momentum.
Right. Any idea if George Soros' money or his funds are going into this?
Yeah, I examined the funds going back to 2016 and till today. And sure enough, it is the Soros empire, along with many other nonprofit organizations, 501c3s that are on the far left side that are funding these protest movements.
So the people who are marching, are they just showing up on their own because, you know, they want to be part of this, or are some of them paid? How does this actually work?
So, you know, there are going to be people that are there for their sincere beliefs, but what happens is that it's these for-profit companies and these established organizations in the protest industry that create the entire infrastructure to allow this protest to happen. For one thing, you have to get a permit. So they file for these permits. And then you have to have the porta-johns, and you have to have the security people, and you have to have the, you know, you don't have to have it, but they make these pre-made posters that you can see in the visuals. And so without that infrastructure and the logistics, you're not going to have this kind of agit propaganda that these folks are unleashing on the streets. And another really important element is that on Monday, I went to another protest, and those ones are led by the self-described socialist organizations in the United States. You know, this is right here, I have just one of the signs. And you can see, Rob, right below, Party for Socialism and Liberation. You know, they don't hide their affiliation. And these organizations, too, are part of this protest industry that makes it seem like we've got the march of the Million Man March happening on the streets, when in fact there are thousands of peoples, and they don't reflect, you know, the popular vote that then put President Trump into office.
I'm wondering, in like 10 seconds, I'm wondering if the permit holders can be held accountable if violence, you know, erupts.
Autopilot mode You'd think they would be, but Answer Coalition, for example, was the permit holder in the summer when there was a protest that said Hamas is coming. They burnt the American flag. And unfortunately, the Park Service tells me that the U.S. courts have upheld the rights of these these kind of offenders to get permits again and again. And so that's something that I think policymakers really have to revisit.
Audra, great work. We thank you for going through the web of this and untangling it.
Thank you so much. I'm on the streets because somebody's got to do it.
Yeah, just be careful. But thank you from all of us for doing it. All right, stay with us, folks. The second hour of Saturday Agenda begins right now.
So this is January 6th, and these are the hostages. Approximately 1,500 for a pardon.
Yes.
Full pardon.
Full pardon or commutation?
Full pardon.
There he goes. It's great to have you with us for the second hour of Saturday Agenda. I'm Rob Astorino. So, with a stroke of that pen, President Trump fulfilled a campaign promise, and he pardoned those convicted for January 6th related crimes at the Capitol. 70-year-old Cindy Young is known as the J6 praying grandma, and according to the DOJ's case, she entered the Capitol through the Senate wing and committed the crime of remaining in a restricted building with the intent to impede government business. She's now got a clean record, and I'm glad she can join me along with retired NYPD Detective Bo Dietl. So let me start with you, Cindy. First of all, describe that day. What was it like when things went totally south?
How are our prices up to 40% less than other meat delivery companies while providing better quality meats? Number one, it's our mission. We believe that pasture-raised meats should be more accessible and more affordable to as many people as possible. Number two, we believe that pasture-raised meat is not only better for the consumer, but it's also better for the planet, helping build topsoil and promote biodiversity. Number three, we partner directly with American family farmers, so there are no middlemen and nothing is ever imported. Number four, we are nose to tail, meaning there is zero waste. We balance every cut of meat across our customer base while still allowing you to customize everything in your box. And number five, we deliver your meat directly to your doorstep. In many areas, we use our own trucks and drivers. That means faster delivery of meat that shows up frozen solid, which means we don't have to reship the same order twice, and there's less waste. Sign up for Wild Pastures today and get 20% off for life plus $15 off your first order. Start customizing your box and get pasture.
And were you surprised when the FBI contacted you? What was that like?
Well, the day was chaotic. And what was really, as I reflect back on it, what was really confusing was the outside activity as compared to the inside of the Capitol activity. Outside, there was, munitions being used against us in an intention to rile up the crowd, I believe, which it did. And then once we got inside the building, it was more like we were being chauffeured through the building like tourists. And it was totally different.
Bo, you were a cop for well over 2 decades. Have you ever seen such a heavy-handed Department of Justice, prosecutors, when it came to arrests and sentencing and zeroing on crimes like this?
No. As far as I'm concerned, what happened with this is the President Trump, decided he's going to do a blanket pardon for the fact that so many people were innocent people that just came into the Capitol. They were protesting what they felt and what they believed. And now they were charged. Some of these people were incarcerated for months without even being charged at some points. Right now, I'm fully supportive of that. The only person that died that day was that Air Force female lady that was shot in the head by that Capitol cop there, who should have been indicted for murder. She was not causing any kind of death to anybody, nor to that Capitol police officer. She should not have been shot in the head, and that cop was 100% wrong. And I tell you right now, he should be prosecuted for murder because he had no reason or rhyme to shoot her.
That was Ashley Babbitt. So,
yes.
Can I correct that, though?
Yeah.
There were 4 people that actually died that day. There was Roseanne Boylan was crushed and then beaten to death by a Capitol police officer, Lilia Morales, or I forget her name, but she attacked her, and Roseanne perished on the West Wing. And then there were 2 men Benjamin Phillip and Kevin Greason that died of heart failure.
Now, how come all this wasn't brought out then? Because as far as this is the first time I'm really understanding about it. Now it even makes it more specific. But going back a little bit, during the 2020 riots, I was in Washington at the inauguration with the BLM and the Antifa. People setting fires across this country when we had the George Floyd riots. Hundreds and thousands of people were beat up, arson everywhere, crimes committed everywhere, every one of them. None of them were prosecuted. And I am really angry. And if Trump didn't get elected, we would still be in this hellhole again. Thank God for Donald Trump being elected so he can show the people of America why they're wrong. And you can see what's going on now across the country, even with these illegal criminals that are all over our cities. Now all of a sudden we're getting them out. Now the other side's starting to agree upon it because they realize that they lost control of their own cities. These Democratic liberals lost control of their own cities. Law and order I'm for, but I'm for also the safety and stability of the people that live in his cities and live in this country, and we have to protect them.
Cindy, I got to ask you, how has your life been affected since that day? I mean, do you feel that your reputation, your rights were violated, your reputation was taking a hit? You know, and
I was investigated early on. They opened a case on me. They came, they interviewed me, and then they closed that case. And then, but they never told me that the case was closed. They continued to surveil me. I've been being surveilled since January 6, 2021. And I finally was charged with the 4 charges, which I call them the cookie cutter charges. They're the misdemeanor charges. And I was offered plea deals that I did not take. Because I felt that I did nothing wrong that day. I entered the people's house and I was redressing my grievances. And for that, the government has been fully weaponized against me. I lost a business. I've lost customers. I've lost friends. I've almost lost my home.
Rob, I'd like to find out how much money was spent by the FBI and the Justice Department on this Fugazi investigation here. I'm going to tell you something. Hundreds of millions of dollars, I'll guarantee you. If she's under surveillance like that, you know what surveillance costs to do a surveillance on a person? You have teams on that. I'd like to find out how much money government waste was there. They should have used that with the illegal criminals that have come into our country. Let's hunt them down and get them the hell out of America, and let's go forward with this great president we've got.
Yeah, and
I have a really great attorney, and one of the things he looked at was how many people had touched my case. Over 20 government officials wrote reports on me.
No, it's crazy. I read the FBI report from the agent. His name was redacted, but I read what the DOJ submitted to the court. And you read it and you go, seriously? Are you kidding me? I mean, of all the things you got to worry about, this woman walking through the Capitol, not doing any damage, not violent in any way, caught up in the moment, whatever. But this is the discretion that our government used to go after its own citizens. I mean, there has to be discretion in cases like this, and they used none. They wanted everyone in basically within 10 miles of the Capitol that day who was a supporter of Donald Trump to be arrested. And I'm so sorry.
Rob, it was great to see you at the inauguration, and we were very happy, and everybody's happy, and I'm sure you're happy also. And thank God there's a new sheriff in America, and that's Donald Trump. And all these liberals and all these bleeding hearts, bye-bye. Now, we won. You're the losers. We're the winners. Let's go.
Bo Dietl, good to see you. Cindy Young, thank God it's over for you. And new life begins now.
Bye, Cindy.
This morning. First off, Pete Hegseth. He was sworn in as defense secretary after getting through the Senate 51-50 last night. Kristi Noem, she's confirmed by the Senate to be Homeland Security.
Oh.
So this is Marco Rubio, who is the new Secretary of State for America, and here he is in a congressional hearing talking about I call them anti-Israel terrorists. You know, I don't like using the word pro-Palestinian because they're not pro-Palestinian. If they're pro-Palestinian, they wouldn't be supporting organizations that are to the detriment of the Arabs, like Hamas, and, you know, hateful ideologies. So I say anti-Israel. But actually, in this case, I would even go so far as to say pro-Hamas, because that's what we've seen on campuses, college campuses, across America, across the Western world. They legitimize Hamas. They're legitimizing evil. They're trying to pretend that there is a virtue or resistance in what is genocidal Jew hatred, and nothing would ever excuse the evil of what was done by Hamas on October 7th and what they've continued to do to last years ever since. Raping, mutilating, abducting, it's evil. And here Marco Rubio shows a moral clarity about what to do with these kind of students that express these views. Have a watch.
Thank you. Since October 7th, there's been a disturbing rise in anti-Semitism, pro-terrorist violence in our cities, on college campuses. You and I had the opportunity to write an op-ed together. And in that op-ed, we called on foreign nationals who support Hamas or other terrorist organizations to lose their visas and to be sent back to their home countries. As Secretary of State, of course, you'll be responsible for overseeing the issuance of visas. How will you enforce our laws to ensure that we remove supporters of terrorist groups from our country?
Listen, my view on this is one of common sense. Okay? If you apply for a visa to come into the United States, and in the process of being looked at, it comes to light that you're a supporter of Hamas, we wouldn't let you in. If we knew you were a supporter of Hamas, we would not give you a visa. So now that you got the visa and you're inside the U.S., and now we realize you're a supporter of Hamas, we should remove your visa. If you could not come in because you're a supporter of Hamas, you should not be able to stay on a visa if you're a supporter of Hamas. That's how I view it. And I think that's just an issue of common sense. And we intend to be very forceful about that.
It's so blatant, it's so obvious, and yet why has this not been something that has been seen as a common sense approach till now? What Senator Rubio is saying is utterly sensible, and what you should know, by the way, here is something really shocking. So there was a terror attack in Israel just 2 days ago. Okay, a 29-year-old Moroccan migrant named Abdelaziz. He stabbed 4 Israelis in a terror attack in Tel Aviv. He was allowed into the USA after winning the diversity immigrant visa lottery. And the attacker flew to Israel from the USA, who was shot to death. Here is his passport. So there's clearly an insanity, a total lack of due diligence, and also clearly not much of a sense of intimidation from the American authorities. And I think that's going to really change, or really, rather, it better change. And I think also, let's be clear, look, I don't think America can necessarily deport people who are born citizens in America, but there are people who are born citizens in America that have been expressing support for Hamas. Let's not forget people graffitiing, I think it was on college campuses, saying, "We are Hamas and Israelis belong to hell." Israelis, not the Israeli government or an Israeli politician, Israelis. But Trump has been talking also about other measures, withdrawing support or financial support or tax breaks or whatever it is to colleges that tolerate this kind of stuff. We need a much more hardline approach, because as much as I believe the root of dealing with this conflict is through education, through ideological shifts, it's amazing how much also a bit of stick as well, not just carrot, can bring people to the table and shift views. Look at this ceasefire deal. I think the deal is abhorrent. I think it's immoral. But the fact that Hamas agreed to a deal, which they weren't doing under the Biden administration, is because they were threatened by Trump, in my opinion. The fact that they agreed to this just as Trump gets inaugurated, where he said, if you don't do this, there's going to be hell to pay, I think it just shows that sometimes having that kind of strength, I think that's the key word here, strength of clarity, that is the only way you really, really can make the kind of change you wish to see. So I think that's the key thing here. Strength, clarity, in both the educational field, which is what we're doing, and in the political field, and certainly in the military field. That is the way that you truly get to a long-term peaceful resolution. Hi, thank you so much for watching. To watch another one, click here. To stay up to date with all our content, click here to subscribe. And if you're able to, you can help support JTV to grow and grow by clicking join below this video, where you can become a member and get perks including early access to videos and private live discussions with me, but most of all, you'll be partnering with us on our mission to change the world.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States, Donald J. Trump.
Well, thank you very much, Klaus, and hello to everyone in beautiful Davos. This has been a truly historic week in the United States. 3 days ago, I took the oath of office, and we began the golden age of America. The recent presidential election was won by millions of votes, and all seven, every one of them, all seven swing states. It was a massive mandate from the American people like hasn't been seen in many years, and some of the political pundits, even some of my so-called enemies, said it was the most consequential election victory in 129 years. That's quite nice. What the world has witnessed in the past 72 hours is nothing less than a revolution of common sense. Our country will soon be stronger, wealthier, and more united than ever before, and the entire planet will be more peaceful and prosperous as a result of this incredible momentum and what we're doing and going to do. My administration is acting with unprecedented speed to fix the disasters we've inherited from a totally inept group of people and to solve every single crisis facing our country. This begins with confronting the economic chaos caused by the failed policies of the last administration. Over the past 4 years, our government racked up $8 trillion in wasteful deficit spending and inflicted nation-wrecking energy restrictions, crippling regulations, and hidden taxes like never before. The result is the worst inflation crisis in modern history and sky-high interest rates for our citizens and even throughout the world. Food prices and the price of almost every other thing known to mankind went through the roof. President Biden totally lost control of what was going on in our country, but in particular with our high inflation economy and at our border. Because of these ruinous policies, total government spending this year is $1.5 trillion higher than was projected to occur when I left office just 4 years ago. Likewise, the cost of servicing the debt is more than 230% higher than was projected in 2020. The inflation rate we are inheriting remains 50% higher than the historic target. It was the highest inflation probably in the history of our country. That's why from the moment I took office, I've taken rapid action to reverse each and every one of these radical left policies that created this calamity, in particular with immigration, crime, and inflation. On day one, I signed an executive order directing every member of my cabinet to marshal all powers at their disposal to defeat inflation and reduce the cost of daily life. I imposed a federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, a foreign aid freeze, and I created the new Department of Government Efficiency. I terminated the ridiculous and incredibly wasteful Green New Deal, I call it the Green New Scam, withdrew from the one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and ended the insane and costly electric vehicle mandate. We're going to let people buy the car they want to buy. I declared a national energy emergency, and it's so important, national energy emergency to unlock the liquid gold under our feet and pave the way for rapid approvals of new energy infrastructure. The United States has the largest amount of oil and gas of any country on earth, and we're going to use it. Not only will this reduce the cost of virtually all goods and services, it will make the United States a manufacturing superpower and the world capital of artificial intelligence and crypto. My administration has also begun the largest deregulation campaign in history, far exceeding even the record-setting efforts of my last term. In total, the Biden administration imposed $50,000 in additional regulatory costs on the average American household over the last 4 years. I have promised to eliminate 10 old regulations for every new regulation, which will soon put many thousands of dollars back in the pockets of American families. To further unleash our economy, our majorities in the House and Senate, which we also took along with the presidency, are going to pass the largest tax cut in American history, including massive tax cuts for workers and family, and big tax cuts for domestic producers and manufacturers. And we're working with the Democrats on getting an extension of the original Trump tax cuts, as you probably know, by just reading any paper. My message to every business in the world is very simple. Come make your product in America, and we will give you among the lowest taxes of any nation on earth. We're bringing them down very substantially, even from the original Trump tax cuts. But if you don't make your product in America, which is your prerogative, then very simply you will have to pay a tariff, differing amounts, but a tariff which will direct hundreds of billions of dollars and even trillions of dollars into our treasury to strengthen our economy and pay down debt. Under the Trump administration, there will be no better place on earth to create jobs, build factories, or grow a company than right here in the good old USA. Already Americans' economic, you can see this, I think, maybe even in your wonderful, wonderful room that you're all gathered together, so many of my friends, but Americans, the economic confidence is soaring like we haven't seen in many, many decades, maybe not at all. Upon my election, it was just announced that small business optimism skyrocketed by 41 points in a single month. That's the highest ever. There's never been anything like that. SoftBank has announced between a $100 and $200 billion investment in the U.S. economy because of the election result. And just 2 days ago, Oracle, SoftBank, and OpenAI announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure. Other companies likewise have announced billions and billions and billions, adding up to trillions of investment in America, in the United States. And it's also reported today in the papers that Saudi Arabia will be investing at least $600 billion in America, but I'll be asking the Crown Prince, who's a fantastic guy, to round it out to around $1 trillion. I think they'll do that because we've been very good to them. And I'm also going to ask Saudi Arabia and OPEC to bring down the cost of oil. You got to bring it down, which, frankly, I'm surprised they didn't do before the election. That didn't show a lot of love by them not doing it. I was a little surprised by that. If the price came down, the Russia-Ukraine war would end immediately. Right now, the price is high enough that that war will continue. You got to bring down the oil price. You got to end that war. They should have done it long ago. They're very responsible, actually, to a certain extent, for what's taking place. Millions of lives are being lost. With oil prices going down, I'll demand that interest rates drop immediately, and likewise, they should be dropping all over the world. Interest rates should follow us. All over, the progress that you're seeing is happening because of our historic victory in a recent presidential election, one that has become quite well known throughout the world. I think a lot of things are happening to a lot of countries. They say that there's light shining all over the world since the election, and even countries that we aren't particularly friendly with are happy because they understand what there is a future and how great the future will be. Under our leadership, America is back and open for business. And this week, I'm also taking swift action to stop the invasion at our southern border. They allowed people to come in at levels that nobody's ever seen before. It was ridiculous. I decided and declared to do and very, very importantly, a national emergency on our border immediately halted all entry of illegal border crossers, of which there were many, and began promptly returning the illegal trespassers back to the place from which they came. That action, as you've probably seen, has already started very strongly. I've deployed active duty U.S. military and National Guard troops to the border to assist in repelling the invasion. It was really an invasion. We will not allow our territory to be violated. After 4 long years, the United States is strong and sovereign and a beautiful nation once again. It's a strong, sovereign nation. In addition, I'm pleased to report that America is also a free nation once again. On day one, I signed an executive order to stop all government censorship. No longer will our government label the speech of our own citizens as misinformation or disinformation, which are the favorite words of censors and those who wish to stop the free exchange of ideas and, frankly, progress. We have saved free speech in America, and we've saved it strongly. With another historic executive order this week, I also ended the weaponization of law enforcement against the American people and, frankly, against politicians, and restored the fair, equal, and impartial rule of law. My administration has taken action to abolish all discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion nonsense, and these are policies that were absolute nonsense throughout the government and the private sector. With the recent yet somewhat unexpected great Supreme Court decision just made, America will once again become a merit-based country. You have to hear that word, merit-based country. And I've made it official, an official policy of the United States, that there are only 2 genders, male and female. And we will have no men participating in women's sports, and transgender operations, which became the rage, will occur very rarely. Finally, as we restore common sense in America, we're moving quickly to bring back strength and peace and stability abroad. I'm also going to ask all NATO nations to increase defense spending to 5% of GDP, which is what it should have been years ago. It was only at 2%, and most nations didn't pay until I came along. I insisted that they pay, and they did, because the United States was really paying the difference at that time, and it was unfair to the United States. But many, many things have been unfair for many years to the United States. Before even taking office, my team negotiated a ceasefire agreement in the Middle East, which wouldn't have happened without us, as I think most of the people in the room know. Earlier this week, the hostages began to return to their families. They are returning, and it's a beautiful sight, and they'll be coming in more and more. They started coming back on Sunday. Our efforts to secure a peace settlement between Russia and Ukraine are now hopefully underway. It's so important to get that done. That is an absolute killing field. Millions of soldiers are being killed. Nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. They're laying dead all over the flat fields. It's a flat field farmland, and there's millions of Russians and millions of Ukrainians, and nobody's seen anything like it since World War II. It's time to end it. And here in America, we have big events coming up. Next year, we have the 250th anniversary of America's founding. I'm so honored to be president during that. That's been a big event. They've been talking about it for 10 years. We also have the World Cup, and I understand Gianni's in the room. Infantino, he was very instrumental in helping us get it. He's there with you someplace, I think, and I want to thank him for that. And then we have the Olympics coming up, which I was instrumental in getting also in my first term, and who would have known that by skipping a term I would get the Olympics? I was upset. I said, you know, I got the Olympics to come and I won't be president, but it turned out through a stroke of luck, or whatever you might call it, that I'm going to be president during the World Cup and the Olympics and the 250th anniversary. So that's going to be 3 big events. And we've accomplished more in less than 4 days. We have really been working 4 days than other administrations have accomplished in 4 years, and we're just getting started. It's really an amazing thing to see, and the spirit and the light over our country has been incredible. Under the last administration, our nation has suffered greatly. But we're going to bring it back and make it greater, bigger, stronger, better than ever before. I want to thank everybody for being with you. I would have been there myself, except the inauguration was 2 days ago. I thought it might be a little bit quick to make it the first stop. But we'll get there one day. We hope to get there. But I do appreciate, I heard the audience is fantastic, and many of my friends are in the audience. And I will be taking questions now from some very distinguished people. Thank you all very much.
Did you know that Amazon has a $50 million fund that they have to pay out every month? And here's how you can get a cut of it. My name is Charlotte Mickelson, and we help everyday people grow their income with one simple method. And we're pretty darn good at it. Our company, Publishing.com, was named the 19th fastest growing company in India. And the only reason we're so successful is because of the success that we've created for others. And I'll tell you why our method works so much better than anything else you might have tried. It's because starting a business is not the best way for regular people to make more money. And that's what everyone gets wrong. Starting and running a business is hard. It's expensive, it takes a long time, and it requires skills and experience that most people don't have. Instead, we help you plug into Amazon and the $500 billion a year business they've already built. Now, the way we do it is completely different from anything you've seen before. We don't show you how to buy and sell physical products on Amazon like everybody else. The way we plug into Amazon is through this app on our phone called Audible, which most people don't know is one of Amazon's apps. And using this app, I showed my mom how to get paid checks like this from Amazon every month. Look, this didn't make her rich. So if that's what you're looking for, this
President Trump's second term, a major topic among global leaders at the World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland. Maria spoke with Poland's President Andrzej Duda in Davos, asking his opinion on the 47th president. Watch.
And joining me right now is the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda. Mr. President, so good to see you.
Dzień dobry, witam bardzo serdecznie.
Thank you so much for being here, and much conversation this week here in Davos about President Trump returning to the White House with new policies. Can you assess the policies and tell us what you're expecting in terms of the impact on Poland and the European Union?
Yes, good afternoon. So I believe that I belong to those European politicians and to those European observers who are looking at the comeback of President Donald Trump to the White House in a very calm way. So I'm waiting calmly for the continuation of the very clear policy of President Donald Trump, the clear policy that he followed during his previous 4 years as the President of the United States, because now I believe he is experienced. He's got that experience from his previous 4 years, so probably he's going to be even more efficient in carrying out his policies.
One of your former colleagues said that the Trump revolution of common sense is beginning to sweep Europe as well. Do you see that?
Well, for sure, Donald Trump and some see in Europe, we can see in Europe, together with the comeback of Donald Trump, mobilization of those circles, of those groups who have got certain concerns or certain fears. On the one hand, those fears or those concerns are connected with a competition with the United States, and on the other hand, it's the fears of Donald Trump not supporting those liberal and leftist circles that have been dominating in Europe, and those people are for sure scared. Well, I have talked to President Donald Trump. I talked to him on many occasions during his first term in office and also later on. And also in April, I had a meeting with him in New York. We had a very long discussion. And I do know what Donald Trump's expectations are and how he sees those changes in relations between Europe and the United States. And, well, he has brought forward very clear arguments concerning relations between the United States and European countries, especially those rich countries, those very affluent countries. countries. And the arguments that President Donald Trump has presented have been very logical and very clear. And I do believe that Donald Trump is right.
And he is reversing all of Joe Biden's policies. One of those policies was upsetting Poland, and that is, I know, the move to limit the export of artificial intelligence chips to Poland. What has been the impact?
Well, in Poland, we have a feeling that we have been hurt by this decision, and there is a deep sense of disappointment with this policy, the decisions taken by President Biden and his administration, especially with view of the fact that recent parliamentary elections in Poland were won by the political camp of left liberal politicians led by Donald Tusk. So they seem to be very close allies with U.S. Democrats. Still, this administration has taken such a decision. And, well, as a result of that decision, Poland has found itself among the countries which are not in the first tier of U.S. allies. So we have been pushed to the second or even third tier of those countries who are not very highly trusted by the United States. So it is also my feeling, my personal feeling, that it has caused some hurt and damage here in Poland.
And many of the issues that Donald Trump talks about are also issues for you and for Europe in general. Illegal migration is a major issue. You see what Italy is doing at the border. You want the EU to focus on security. The border with Belarus highlighting the challenge, right?
Well, we have been very stable in our policy, though we have been attacked by the European Union institutions, and that has been going on for 9 years and a half, so for the whole tenure of my presidency as President of Poland. Since the very first years, we protested against the policy conducted by the European Union, the quota system, which consists in moving migrants across the borders, open borders, and we protested against that in a very consistent way. We have been conducting a very consistent policy on this one. And when the hybrid attack came, when our border was attacked from Belarus, and when migrants were pushed on our border, we reacted in a very strong, in a very robust policy of defending our borders, and we are defending them until today.
Do you believe the upcoming election will turn on that issue?
Well, we will see about that. All depends on the results of the elections. I'm thinking in the first place about the presidential elections upcoming in Poland, but also in other countries we will witness certain elections taking place. For example, the elections in Germany, which are also moving closer to us, and the result of those elections will for sure have an impact on the policy of the European Union.
Let me end with the war, Russia's war on Ukraine. President Trump said because of the topography, the land is all flat, there are many, many more people who are dying than actually they're telling us, that we are seeing soldiers die by the hundreds. And I want to get your take. President Trump said he wants this war to end soon on his watch. Do you think that's possible?
Well, this is a very difficult task indeed, but I'm sure that President Donald Trump, he is very much determined, and he's got this very out-of-the-box view of politics. So if he's saying that, I believe that this is going to come true. It is going to happen. And actually, I expected this topic to be raised right after President Donald Trump comes into office, because that was a topic which was also touched upon during the presidential campaign in the